Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this wonderful live session today. And I am back. I am back with another edition of That's What They Said. That's What They Said is a live chat with people in my network. And the theme for this edition of That's What They Said is higher education. So firstly, thank you so much for everybody who's joined us today. We're going to have a very special guest, and she is Trisha Sanghvi. Trisha happens to be studying. Trisha did study in the US, and now she's currently working in the US as well. I'm just going to wait for her to send me a request, and then we'll be going live. This is the third edition of That's What They Said, and this is the first episode. I'm really excited to be back. A lot of things have changed, and this live session will be interactive. We'll be talking about different aspects about study in USA. Let me just send in a quick invite to Trisha, and she will be here any moment. And there'll be please put in any of your questions you have about study in USA right in the comments, and then we'll try and address all these questions that you want to know about study in the USA. We're just waiting for Trisha to also join in. She should be here any moment right now. I've also sent her an invite. Maybe she's struggling with how to get that on, but I'm sure that she'll figure it out very well. No, that is not hair gel. That is just plain simple water. Well, for people who've just joined in, thank you so much for coming in. I'm Sharang, and I am doing this live session, which is, yes, Trisha has joined, and she will be here any moment, and there she. Hey, hi Trisha, how's it
Hi,
going?
hi Sharang.
So nice to see you after so long, Trisha. Trisha is our guest, and she today is going to be talking about study in USA. So this is your first live? Is this your first live, Trisha?
I think it's my first Instagram live ever in my life.
Okay. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you?
12.
12. Okay. Very interesting. Anyway, so we'll try and keep it casual. What the aim of this chat is just to understand a little more about studying and living in the US. And you've done that for the best part of the last 3 years now. I'm going to give a very brief introduction about Trisha. Trisha studied at Cornell at the medical school in Cornell, and she studied biostatistics and data science as masters in biostats and data science. I'll let Trisha do little more of the introduction by herself. We go back to about 2010, so it's been a decade that since we know each other, and for the last 5 years of that, she's been in the US. So firstly, Trisha, tell us about what course you did, what university was it, when did you start, when did you finish?
So I did my master's in biostatistics and data science at Weill Cornell Graduate School of Medical Sciences. It's basically the medical school of Cornell, but since I did it in biostats and it's related to healthcare, it's part of the medical school. And Cornell is actually part of Ithaca, which is upstate New
Hmm.
York, but since my school is part of the medical school, it's affiliated with the hospital, which is in New York City.
Wonderful. So,
And
so you are currently connecting with us from New York.
yeah,
Well,
I'm
well, firstly,
this
yeah,
year I've switched three cities. So this
I
year is just an
know.
odd year, but otherwise, yeah, New York.
Awesome. So we'll also talk about that. But the first question that actually comes to my mind is that when people talk jobs of the future, when people talk what's the hot topics to study, in all of these articles and in everything you read on the internet, people talk about data science. Um, Hi, are you still with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what prompted you to take data science as a course?
So I actually studied actuarial science, and that's what made me realize I wanted to do statistics. So I was never looking to do a data science course. I was looking to do a statistics course, and I always wanted to get into healthcare. So when healthcare and statistics came together, I said, "Oh, I'll just do a biostatistics course." And data science was just like an additional elective, which was part of the course.
All right. Okay. And what is the scope of this of data science right now in the kind of environment we are living in? What's the scope of data science? What is the kind of work like? Can you also take me through a day in a life of what you've been doing at work?
Yeah. So right now I currently work as a so basically data science, data analyst, statistics, it's all the same. There's no difference. It's basically just change in position name. That's it.
Hmm.
When you start off your career, you start off as a data analyst, and over time, when you become more technical, you switch over to data scientist. So eventually it's just all the same, which we never knew when we were applying for jobs, but over time you just realize that. And when I first started my career, I worked as a health analyst, a health data analyst at a small insurance company, which basically was for the people who were infected with AIDS and HIV in New York City,
Hmm.
and it only catered to them. And then I switched over to health tech and I moved to SF, and I'm working for Collective Health basically. And it's again a third party insurer for all companies that are self-insured.
Interesting.
And
Yeah. And Trisha, do you think that USA is the best destination to have studied this course?
in my opinion, yes, because I feel like the only reason I chose US was opportunity, career, also family, because I have family here, so it would be much easier. But when I was looking at several other countries like UK and Australia and stuff, I chose US more from the opportunity perspective. Like back in the day, you always had like a guaranteed visa. Things have got harder and things have changed. But you knew for 3 years I can work here, I can recover the cost of my education and investment, and it makes sense to come here.
Right. So, when we sit and we discuss with let's say Indian families and the parents talk to each other and they say that, my son is studying in the US or my daughter is studying in the US. So, effectively, you try and conquer that US is a school, right? So you might be studying in the Ivy Leagues or you might be studying in a not so reputed school, but US as a So were you also pushed in thought process where I want to go to the US because historically US has been the destination where people would like to go study.
Sharon, I think I
Yes.
lost
So
you.
yeah, no,
Sorry.
I'll just quickly repeat that question. US is known to be a destination where people go abroad and study, right? It's it's historically been that way that if an Indian wants to go abroad and study, 9 out of 10 times is the US. Did you also jump on that bandwagon, just for the opportunity that, I'll be going to US to study?
I actually wanted to go to the UK because I was studying actuarial science, and UK and India affiliated. But my dad
Hmm.
was of the opinion that, you should go to the US more because I had family here. So
Hmm.
I'm sure both the countries had enough opportunity, but also the visa in the US would give me 3 years to work right after I graduate
Hmm.
from school. So at least I had that security that I would be able to recover my investment. And on top of that, because I had family here. So that's the one of the reasons I chose US over the UK.
Sure. I did the math and I realized that while you were applying for university, that time Barack Obama was the president of the US, and then maybe by the time you caught your flight and you reached, Donald Trump was like the president as well. There's a question that's also come in the chat by someone I know, and he asked that with Trump and his love for the expats or the lack of love for the expats, would you still suggest a move to the States versus other countries at this point in time? Citrus paribus?
So I would say if you want to settle here long term, like most importantly, don't do a course that is not a technical course, basically. Do anything that comes under the STEM category because that will grant you 3 years of working right after you graduate. So you'll get three attempts at the H-1B, which is the work visa, and it's all lottery dependent. So it's basically based on luck. And if you have 3 years, I'm sure you have like basically a good enough probability to convert it to a work visa. But if you're just going to do any other course which does not belong to the STEM category, you get only one attempt, which makes it much harder for you to actually get the visa. And of course, if you talk about like settling and getting PR and green card and stuff like that, like it's more than 12 years. So that's if you
A
see yourself,
distant dream.
yeah, it's a
Hmm.
distant dream. But if you think that for the next 3 to 6 years you'll be okay, then this is a good enough opportunity.
All right. So what you're suggesting is that if you're looking at a STEM program, which will then grant you 3 attempts, which is three
Yeah.
years of a work visa, or if it's a management background, then management degree or a non-STEM degree, then we'll have to look at it. And by STEM, I just want to have everybody on the audience also understand STEM is either science, technology, engineering, or math. So
Yes.
any kind of postgraduate course that actually has any of these topics will be able to grant you that 3 attempts at the at the visa. So how have student policies changed from what it was when you were planning to apply to what it is right now? Right now we know what's happening, but then what was it earlier, and how much difficult has it become as of today?
To be honest, like from this category, nothing has changed. What has changed is usually after you get picked in the lottery, you are granted an
Hmm.
H-1B based on what you've studied. And what
Sure,
happened in the past, lots of people like studied mathematics, but they are working in like a different field, which is not related to what they studied. So
sure.
earlier, they did not actually cross-check and they didn't interfere in what kind of work you're doing. So many people like graduated doing XYZ courses, but they were working as like accountants or basically not related to their field. Or like, for
Hmm.
example, you're working at Starbucks, but that does not qualify that you worked in your field in which you studied. So that's the reason what Trump's administration is doing is they're actually digging into that and checking
Hmm.
whether you're qualified enough to stay back in the US, otherwise we shouldn't grant you the H-1B. And I don't think that's a wrong thing because it filters out so many people who unnecessarily stayed back when they were not even qualified enough to stay back. And that's the only thing that has changed, that there's a lot more checking and you're not granted the H-1B as easily as you were back in the day.
I understand. I understand. All right. Okay. So if I would, go back and ask you, since you were very keen to go to the UK, and your dad was actually keen to send you to the US, if given a chance, would you go back in time and apply for a similar program anywhere else in the world, than what you have done today in the US?
So I would say no, because only that I don't know what kind of an experience it would be out there. But I feel like my US career, even if I would not have gotten the visa, I would have been more than happy to come back because it was like a well-rounded career. I got enough exposure in different fields. I learned what it is to work with different people, exposed to different cultures. Uh, like there's not too much of racism. It's very like a diverse pot of cultures in the US as compared to like
Hmm.
other countries. Uh, and plus like going to the best schools and having lots of networking opportunities has been just like a well-rounded career for me in the US.
Wonderful. You actually mentioned about, going to the particular school and, once you talk about school, university, or college, sorry, when you talk about school, university, or college, the picture of a campus actually comes into our head. And when we were kids, we thought university campus is these large, tall buildings and with green grass all around. And then you and I went to HR college, which
Yeah.
was as big as half a building. So tell me something about campus in and what are the facilities that you had as a student that you were maybe not shocked, but you were like, hey, I wish I had this back in my undergrad days.
So like HR college, which is in Bombay, even Cornell's med school is in New York City, which is also a city.
Ah,
So you can't
sure,
expect it to have the same campus, but we also had access to the main Cornell University campus, which was great in what you're talking about. Um,
sure.
but I still like studied in a city campus. We also had access to the campus on a small island, which is off New York, which is the
Hmm,
entire island, most probably, I think, covers the Cornell Tech campus, which is
sure.
similar to having a huge enough campus. But like you talk about the facilities and you have them, like right from like gyms to pools to conference rooms to having like networking events almost every day, uh, having like, a cafeteria, not one, several cafeterias, basically like just place for people to mingle and like not always be at class, not having only one allocated class that you're going to. Every
Hmm,
subject has a different class and location to go to, and
sure.
yeah.
Awesome. And what about housing? I'm sure that there is campus, opportunities for housing. Did you stay on campus? And plus, if you didn't stay on campus, for the people who actually stayed elsewhere, uh, it's New York City, and it's one of the most expensive places to live in the world. So take us through how you managed to live, from the point of view of housing during your university days.
So staying on campus was an option, but I
Hmm.
didn't choose to stay on campus because it was really expensive and it was part of New York City, so it didn't make sense. I would have just rather
Hmm.
stayed independently, and that's what I did. So I actually had a friend, Sharon, who you know, Sonam, who was also moving to New
Yes.
York at the same time, and we decided to stay like midway between both our schools since we both went to school in New York. But like school always has the option of staying on campus, and they had
Hmm.
their campus off New York City on Roosevelt Island, where the Cornell Tech campus is. So that's where all the med students could stay if they wanted to. And it would be like fully furnished. You basically bring your clothes, you just come. You can choose whether you want roommates, you want to stay alone, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
since it was really expensive and it didn't add up, I just thought it makes more sense to stay independently. And housing in New York is basically every 2 weeks you can find houses. It's so fast and it's so
Oh,
expensive, but it's so
sure.
fast paced that it's not difficult at all. I remember when I was back in Bombay, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to find a house? And my cousin was like, oh, come here and we'll figure it out. And I was like, what do you mean by figure it out? I need like a house now. And what you see now and what you see 6 months down the line is very different. The market is so fast. Basically, every 2 weeks you find new houses, which is great.
Wow. Wow. Very interesting. And you mentioned about expenses, right? Trisha, living as a student, you have certain budgets because you're not earning money. You have to really pick and choose where and what you want to spend. Uh, you know, Worst case scenario, if you want to live a decent student life, I don't want to say comfortable. I'm not saying that, go for a lavish meal every second day, but, if you want to live a comfortable student life, how much would somebody who is studying in New York be spending per month, regardless of rent now? Or you know what, let's talk about rent as well as part of it.
So New York City rent bare minimum is at least $1,500, and I'm talking about not share. I'm sharing a bathroom and like having roommates and stuff,
Hmm.
not living alone. And this was all pre-pandemic. Now, obviously, rent has changed and everything
Yeah.
has changed in the market. And if you want to live a comfortable life, not saying that you're going to expensive dinners or going out all the time and stuff, I would say at least $1,200 is what you aim to spend every month. And it's not like you can't cover your expenses. You can, because while I was a student, I also chose to work and you get paid enough. Like the norm is to get paid $15 an hour. And on your student visa, you're technically allowed to work for 20 hours a week.
20
So you
hours a
make,
week. Yep.
yeah, you make decent enough money to basically, obviously not cover rent, but at least your day-to-day expenses you can meet. And being able to like work simultaneously also means that you get like a lot of exposure, networking opportunities, you meet other people, and you're building your resume. Because at the end of the day, what I learned is they don't care too much about Indian work experience. When you're
Hmm.
applying to jobs, it's about what did you do in the US and do you know how to deal with US work culture? and stuff like that. So that was a major plus point when I went to Cornell.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point you made, is that the recruiters don't look at your work experience that you've had in India as much as they would look at the work experience that you've had in that culture, as well. So, coming to that point that you worked as a research coordinator during your higher education days as well. Firstly, how did you manage the time? Can you just take me through a normal study plus work life day in that you currently, sorry, not currently, that you used to live, where which includes, let's say, 1 hour of transport, etc. How did that day actually go by?
So it was 1 year of torture, and I'm not even joking. But it was really fun because I had no time to think. All that I wanted to do is like get work done, and the whole year flew by. So it was great. There were days I would not shower because I had no time, and I'm not even joking about this. It was like I'm dead
Sure.
by the end of the day. So in the morning, I used to go to work. I would work the first couple of hours a day, and I used to take the subway, so it would take me like 45 to 50 minutes to get to work. I would work half the day until 12 p.m. From there, I would go to school, and school would be around like 1 or 2. Depends on what classes and how you want to
Sure.
like decide your schedule. So it's great that you can always decide how you want to schedule your classes. It's not necessary that, oh, class is always at 12 and you have to take this class.
Hmm.
So I would
Hmm.
usually take classes in the afternoon. After that, school always emphasizes on group projects and like
Sure.
meeting with class people, having like networking events. So after that, I would go to these networking events or meet up with my group mates to figure out next week's homework assignment and stuff like that. And by the end of the day, it would be 8 or 9 o'clock. You submit all your deliverables to school and it's time to pass out. So basically, there was no time in my first year of school. It was so busy, more because I used to work, which was great
Hmm.
because I would meet cover my expenses. And usually most of the schools have Friday off. So Friday,
Hmm.
Saturday, Sunday is like where you can go out and do everything that you want to do. Nobody expects you to deliver any assignments usually on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's basically for you to chill, explore, travel, and stuff like that. And you never feel guilty because you're also making money on the side. So you just do everything.
Sure. And that's a very, you know, interesting day that you've spoken about. You mentioned that you had 4 hours of work in the mornings, right? Did you mention 4 hours of
Yeah,
work in the morning approximately? 3 to 4
yeah.
hours. And was this flexible, or was this work project based where you have to start something, finish something in a week and then do that? What was the kind of work that you were doing?
So it was
Or
very
your friends were
flexible.
doing as well? Yeah, or your friends were doing as well. I've had friends who've actually worked at Starbucks as a student for the first morning shift and then went in the afternoon shift to school, So
Yeah.
so what did you do? What did some of your friends also do?
So when you come on a student visa, there are lots and lots of restrictions on what kind of work you can do. So like working at Starbucks is not an option for us. You have to work within what you're studying and anything
Sure.
within that field. So that's the reason I worked as a research coordinator at Cornell, where I assisted like my professors on research projects that they were working on. And I also worked at another institution basically where I assisted another researcher on basically mental health research. And it was all basically behavioral analytics focused, like number crunching, looking at data, looking at survey data, and like, making predictions from the data and assisting the researchers to write papers. And the aim of these papers is to get them published and basically
Hmm.
communicate to the
Hmm.
world about like the findings. Uh, Sorry, I think I forgot your question, Sharon.
No,
Oh, what my
no.
work
So,
was.
so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
So,
So
uh,
cool. So you've answered most of it. That you worked at Cornell and you worked in research and stats, which was part of what your course is also there. All right. Then you finished your program and then you were into the job market, and I believe you would also have been stressed about how will I find a job? What am I supposed to do exactly? So you started your first job at Amida Care. I'm not sure how
yeah,
what's
Amita
it
Care.
it Amida Care. How take us through the job application process. Take us through how stressed you were. Not only stressed as you as an individual, but also stressed because of the system. Let's say what was happening in the economy that time, how easy or tough was it for you to get your job? And what was the whole application process like? Did you face any kind of, uh, uh, you know, uh, b- unbiasedness or any kind of biasness because A, you were a woman, and B, you were also not American. You were, you're Indian. So, take us through the whole process of how you got your job.
So the only way to get a job in the US is to network. That's the only solution. Nothing else is going to help you. It's about who you know, who you speak to, and that's it. It's basically networking. It's going to every networking event and making yourself like known out there, speaking with people. And it's not necessarily knocking on their door and saying, "Hey, I need a job." It's basically knowing
Hmm.
that, oh, you work here and I work here, and basically just getting to know people. That tomorrow, when you are in the market, you can always reach out and say, "I know your company has an opening, and is it possible we can connect? Can you like walk me through what you basically do during the day? Can you connect me to the recruiter and stuff like that?" And visa restrictions are extremely like they play a very important role when we're looking for jobs because there are so many things that you have to keep in mind. Like from the time you graduate, you have to get a job within 3 months, or you have to leave the US and your visa is no longer valid. So basically, you have only 90 days of unemployment in the whole year while you're a student. And that means that you have to start looking for a job way in advance. Also, the job market basically nobody's looking for an employee 6 months down the line, right? It's
Hmm.
2 months before someone
Yeah.
actually wants to look for an employee, you post the job opening. So, keeping that in mind, you basically start building connections at least 6 months prior to you wanting to look for a job. And then 2 months into it, you're actually, giving exams. And it's not as easy. There are like 5 or 6 rounds. Your first doing your first round with the recruiter, then they'll ask you to give an entrance exam if you qualify. It also depends on what kind of a job you're looking for, but
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
data
Sure.
analyst, that's what I did. You went through several rounds of exams. After that, they would connect you to the manager, the hiring manager, and then eventually they'll get you to an on-site interview, and then you get the job. So both my
Sure.
jobs I
Sure.
basically
Hmm.
got through networking, and it it was not that difficult. The second one was really easy because I was already employed and I could find another job. So when you're employed and you find another job, it's much more easier than when you're a student and you're looking for a job. And you attend basically Cornell has like great career fairs. So you go to those
Hmm.
career fairs, pick up like all the recruiter numbers and always reach out to them. LinkedIn plays an extremely important role, I think, in all our lives. I would spend more time on LinkedIn than any other social media, just like reaching out to people and seeing what they do.
Sure. Interesting. Very interesting. So, Trisha, as we know, and for the people who are, also watching, is someone who stays very far away from trouble, right? We know for a matter of fact that if there is trouble, we know one person who will not be there is Trisha, that's for sure. So, having said that, Trisha, what did you face, in the US because you're not American? Did you face any kind of sexism, any kind of racism that you would maybe want to share that, or some of your close friends would have to share? I don't want the incidents. I just want to understand that uh, are we at fault for doing stupid things, or is the American society actually what we sometimes see or hear in the media?
So, at a very minimal level, like it depends, basically. So, I would see that not sexism as such, more like racism, where if you go to a bar and they see a group of Indians, they'd be like, no, you can't enter.
Hmm.
So it's more like a perception that they think, what are a group of brown people going to do? Nothing. But it's more like, then you just don't go to that bar because they're always going to create a problem. So
Hmm.
at like a
Hmm.
very minute level, I would say racism. Another thing was that everyone perceives Indians as not knowing English. Like I would get questioned, "Oh, how is your English so good?" So I was like, "What do you mean?" They were like, "Oh, you're from India. So how is your English so good?" I said, "No, we still study English. That was my first language. I went to an English medium school." But it's more like people have these preconceived notions and they don't know what India is like. So I would say racism. They still think we have cows on the road, walking away. They don't know that we're still a progressing country. But it's more like you just clear their head up because that's what is
Hmm.
shown on TV and that's what they believe. So I don't completely blame them on that aspect.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. And let's not go too much into that as well. You spoke quite a bit about networking events and working for universities. We also tell prospective students about how it's important for you to build your soft skills and to work on the fact that you need to be looking for a job 6 months down the line. So as soon as you land in the country, you want to reach out to people on LinkedIn, etc., and to start building that. What is the importance of soft skills that you have experienced over the last few years? And secondly, do you think the Indian education system trains you and me from a soft skills aspect of things? Do you think there is a gap that's also there in the Indian education system, system? Were you trained for soft skills back in school, college, or after as well?
I don't think so, which is, I think, what we actually lack. Like, so many times we're not qualified for so many things because we don't have good enough skills. So, especially communication, I think, like, we don't have enough emphasis on communication back in the day. So that is one, you always basically, like, getting a marketing job is going to be a lot more harder because there are so many other people who can do that as compared to getting like an engineering job. Because we're trained so
Hmm.
well to sit in front of the computer and code, but can we market? Can we talk well? Can we pitch a product? No. So I think from that aspect, like public speaking, communication, you would rather build your skill set on that. It's not about like speaking well or speaking correct because everyone is from a different culture out here, from a different country. Nobody knows how to
Hmm.
speak English fluently. It's basically getting your communication, your thought process out there instead of just going like around the bush. Especially for like a consulting job, what I faced is that like we're not well trained, and what happens is like we try to beat around the bush, but we're not able to communicate our thoughts clearly, which is which is bad.
Sure. Interesting. All right. You know, I want to ask you, for everybody who is watching right now or who will be watching it later on as well, what is your advice that you would like to give? Let's say the first part of the question is, what is your advice to prospective students if they are deciding to build their career in the US? What is the advice you would want to give them? It could be maybe learn another language. Maybe, language could help. You can work as a language translator if not anything else. Maybe you can, so what are the things that people should have a checkbox before they catch the flight to come to the US to study? I'm not talking about, coming right now because this year, things are quite dicey, but let's say for fall of 2021, 1 year from now, what yeah, so my question is, what would you tell students as of today? They have 1 year, what all they should do in order to have a successful career in the US?
I would say first ensure that it's a STEM program. If it's not STEM, do not come. Otherwise, if you're just coming and you don't need to work here, you don't want to work here, sure, then it's no problem. But if you want to work here, ensure that it's a STEM program. That's extremely important. Also, I forgot to mention going to which university is not important in the US. As long as you're doing well at school, your networking does not matter which university you go to. It's like, oh, I need to go to an Ivy League university. That's more like back in India where everyone is assessing your resume based on which university you go to. But no employer in the US cares which university you go to. As long as you have your grades, your networking, you have like good enough circle and stuff like that, they don't care. So don't focus only on, oh, I just want to go to like these top schools. There are so many good state schools where you save so much more money. You'll have access to the same facilities and you'll get the job done. So, secondly, don't focus on school. Thirdly, I feel like use this 1 year to get a job in India and know what it is to work like outside, basically, like a small firm. Ba-
Sorry,
Sharang, are you there?
just trying to get you back. Yeah, yeah. Could you just resume
Can you
your
hear me?
thought on that? Yes, now I can.
Yeah,
Slightly
I
better.
think that don't waste this 1 year without a job. Even if you're at school, ensure that you get some work experience on your plate because that plays a very, very important role. Like it shows that you put in so much work and so much effort, and you have some kind of work experience, even if it's not US work experience. So ensure that you get some work done. Do some community service that also plays a major important role when you're applying for a job in the US, also in your applications, because they'll see that, oh,
Hmm.
you've done some kind of community service. You'll have questions around that, like how you involved basically in the community throughout the year. And I think, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so let's try and just recap that for the benefit of everybody who's also listening. Is that we are talking about first do a STEM program, then next is
Yeah.
to try and get into a decent school. Which school is not as important as what people might think. Third is that in this 1 year that you're sitting at home, try and gain the work experience as well because work experience matters. It's for the profile who's coming in with 2 years of work experience versus no work experience, even though it's only 2 years, it's still a lot because now you know what it is like to work. And the other thing, sorry, what did you mention as your last few points as well?
Getting some community service done because that's
Hmm.
extremely important. Like when you have conversations with your hiring manager, they'll ask you certain questions.
Oh, they
So I
would.
think,
Okay.
yeah, a
Hmm.
lot of times they'll ask you about other experiences that you've had in the past. Like, tell me about a time where, they'll look at your resume basically and it has to be so crisp and it basically has to show that you're an all-rounded individual. So I would say get the community service done as well because this is 1 year you have time to do and it makes sense. And one more thing that I wanted to mention, which I didn't, is basically look at the job profiles that you actually want to do and look at their prerequisites. For example, if you're looking to
Wonderful.
work as a data analyst, look at the skills they require, like they want Python, SQL, whichever skills, go and pick up those skills because otherwise it'll get too late and you won't
Yeah.
have the time, basically.
Yeah, no, I think that makes absolute sense. So for people who are listening, if you want to do a STEM program in the US, because that's your best bet, because there's a question that actually had still here.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So there was a question that actually came in the chat early on as well. Is that what happens? What are the odds of a student with a non-STEM major to land up with a post-graduation job? So maybe that percentage is quite low and that's quite difficult. So maybe like Rajat, that would be the answer to your question. And
I would say 33%.
yes, effectively, I think you